Exchange Place podcast, y'all. Hey, y'all. I got an amazing guest in here for y'all. He is a heavy hitter, but not only that, he is like my friend from, I don't even know how long. I feel like I know you my whole life.
Yeah, I mean, whenever Slick Rick bought his first chain, that's probably around the time we knew each other.
I was about to say, I think high school. I think we met
junior or sophomore year.
Maybe sophomore year. Yeah. Maybe around there. So like 15, 16. Dang. I'm a little older now. I'm a little older, but for y'all, I just want y'all to welcome, I call him AB, but Aaron Brown to the show.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure.
I'm so glad you decided to come. Me and you've been talking about like kind of getting you on the show, and I'm so glad and happy to have you here.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm here.
Because you came a long way.
A long way and a long way.
a long way and a long way and a longer way. We're gonna talk about that, but I'm proud of you. I want to tell you that. I always try to, give my audience when I'm introducing somebody new to the show. Like, I'm super duper proud of you. I've always been proud of you.
Thank you.
But just watching the evolution of your life, honestly, and watching you grow into the man that you are, the father that you are, the husband that you are. I mean, you always been a creative. Y'all here creative, so y'all gonna have to check out his stuff, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But like, I have always been inspired by what you do.
Oh, thank you. And
in the manner that you do it, and the unashamed behavior that you always had doing it. Like, you've always been AB. You've always been a creative. You've always, I feel like, not been ashamed of like people misunderstanding you or misunderstanding like your art or anything, but like really stepping out and being like, hey, this is me, and it's dope. And you drew a picture for me probably in, maybe I was like, no, I think it was after high school. I think it was probably.
Yeah, we were at Berkeley.
I think we were at Berkeley together before I had went to Montclair. Yep. And I still have it. I have everything that you've ever created and I've been a part of or been invited to or whatever.
Thank you. And I appreciate you. Because I think you sent me the imagery. I think I did. I wrote like you a little poem.
Yeah.
And then I illustrated like
one of my tattoos. Yeah.
Sylvester and Tweety Bird, I think.
Yeah.
Or I did some kind of parallel. I don't remember exactly, but I remember it enough.
It was actually, so I, for the listeners, I lost my first son. I had the Sylvester, and I don't even know if you remember why you created it for me or where that came from, and I don't know from your perspective, but I have the tattoo of Sylvester on my back with rest in peace to my oldest son that I lost. And
wow. See, I did not know that. I just looked at it like, I remember the tattoo, and I was like, I'm going to draw and write her something.
Yeah, and I still have it. The paper is getting a little...
it's getting vintage.
It's getting vintage. It's looking a little vintage. But I'm glad you could join me today. And we actually had a conversation probably about a month or so ago. We were talking about the show, and we were talking about trauma because as the listeners know, we talk about trauma, we talk about unaddressed trauma, and we also talk about the fruit of that and how that kind of showed up in your life. And you shared something with me which literally kind of stopped me in my tracks, if I'm honest, right? So my whole entire life, y'all, the one thing about AB is that he doesn't drive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And you told me the why behind that. And I was like, wait a minute. Like, how did I miss that? How did I not know that? Yeah. How did we never have a conversation about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm always intrigued with the why behind what makes people function and what makes things go. But so AB's, my whole life, you haven't drove. We went to school together right after high school, and we would take the train and whatever. Nothing that I'd never question it. And in my head, just for the listeners, from a friendship perspective, right? I always thought I was just like, AB's meant to live in the city, and like he's always going to be like on a train and hopping on a train from trains. But I never really knew your side of the story. And when you shared it, he was like, "You remember?" And I was like, I don't remember that. I don't remember that. You know, we grew up in Irvington, y'all. Shout out to Irvington.
IHS, Frank H. Morrell.
Frank H. Morrell.
Or Stank H. Morrell if you're nasty.
I know, right? But we grew up in the era of stealing cars.
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to let you share just what you shared with me. But what even the part of, I didn't know that you stole cars back then.
Yeah. So I didn't steal cars in high school.
Okay.
And, you know, I stole cars when I was at Myrtle Avenue School when I was a 7th grader. So I stole cars when I was 12 years old. And at this time, it was extremely popular, right? So if I could parallel it, right, I would compare stealing cars to what, like, And1 Mixtape did to communities a few years later. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, stealing cars clearly is a lot more dangerous. You're breaking the law and things of that nature. But there were several young kids that were older than me, and adults who were stealing cars. That was just like the wave.
A thing. Yeah, I remember
it was like
it was
the
a
trend.
Thing. Yeah.
And so, you know, I came up with a kid who, you know, I won't mention his name, but a kid that I came up with. He taught me how to pop locks on cars with a screwdriver. And these are more of like the low-end cars, right?
Okay.
And then there was this device that you had. It's called a snatch bar. A snatch bar would allow you to snatch the lock out of a car and just be able to pull it open. And so...
this is 12?
Yeah, I'm in 7th grade, 12 years old.
Dang. Okay, go ahead. Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so him and I would steal cars. You know, sometimes we steal cars just to kind of get practice. Mm-hmm. And then the practice was to eventually steal cars and take the cars to this chop shop in what we call a neck of Newark, which is, you know, basically the Brazilian section of Newark, right behind Penn Station. We would take them to a chop shop and we'd get $300 a car.
So, okay. So there was a financial thing, because I always thought stealing cars from, again, I've never stole a car. I've seen it happen. Was kind of being able to do the donuts and do.
Yeah, it's that too.
Okay,
it's that too. Okay. So that's the financial part of it. I only did that 4 to 5 times.
Okay.
Though. So it's not like It's not like I had a whole year of doing it. Now, the guy that I was with,
that's what he did.
Yeah, like that was his thing. Yeah. So, as a result, you know, the guy had asked us to get a specific kind of car. He asked us to get a Benz. And I forget, you know, the make and model of that particular car. But he asked me to get this Benz. He asked us to get a Benz. And he was like, I'll triple what I would normally give you guys. And so, you know, I spent, you know, like, I think my lifestyle was similar to you know, interviews that I watch with Nas. He would say, like, I go out in the streets and hang out with friends. It's like this crazy whirlwind of, like, street things occurring, right? Mm-hmm. And then I'm in the house. It's encyclopedias. I got both parents in the house. There's, like, music. There's, like, learning. So, really, if I'm really being honest, I probably should not have. I just should not have been in the streets. But those were my friends, and we were so close in proximity. How could I not do the things that my brethren were doing, right?
Gotcha.
The kids that how am I not part of that club? Mm-hmm. I'm walking to school with you. We going to the corner store to get the 25-cent juice and Bonton chips afterwards. Like, what's...
Yeah.
So, you know...
So that, too. I mean, what excludes that part from it?
So you have that, too. So, so I'm inside the house. I'm watching... And this is going to help date it, right? Mm-hmm. I'm watching... I always watch 21 Jump Street with my older brother. Always watched it.
Yeah.
And so the motto at every story, like... At the end of it, the people who committed crimes, only two things will happen. They would die or they would go to jail.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'm thinking, too, like, my mom would kill me.
Yeah.
My dad would kill me.
Yeah. I was about to say that.
And So when we were about to go get this Benz, I kind of bailed out on my man. I was just like, yo, my mom is on me. I made up a story.
Yeah.
My mom is on me, y'all. I can't make this run.
Okay.
So that, we were supposed to make a run on a Thursday. I remember it clear. It's crystal clear.
Yeah.
Thursday, I didn't come to school that day. I came to school Friday. I was looking for my man.
Okay.
He wasn't there Friday. He wasn't there the next week. He got caught. So literally, I decided to just bail based off of watching this TV show with my brother.
Yeah.
And then I come and I'm looking for my man. Mm-hmm. So he had to spend a couple weeks in a juvie spot.
So had you been in that place and space, you would have been.
Oh, I would have easily been in juvie, and I know that's not.
Yeah. That's
not even like, at the end of the day, that's not really who I was. And sometimes you, as a young person who is growing up in the kind of neighborhoods that we grew up in, mm-hmm. we're looking for things to do. We're looking for things to become a part of as we're growing.
Absolutely.
And so as a result, that's something that was happening. It was like a fraternity.
Yeah, I got you.
It's like a fraternity of like...
what you're a part of.
What you're a part of.
Yeah, I got you.
So shortly after that, I just, I would still do little things. Like I would play hooky here and there with my man because he would do stuff like that, hanging out with girls, doing, little things here and there. And then I just wouldn't do any of the crime stuff. Like he taught me how to do a lot of things. Like he taught me how to take my library card because we all had a Irvington Public Library card. He taught me how to take my plastic library card, stick it into the bolt lock of a door, mm-hmm. shimmy it a bit, and push it open.
So he was breaking in houses too?
He knew how to do all that stuff. And I learned those things from, my time hanging out with him. Okay.
So this is from 12 to what age that this is?
This is all of 7th grade because by the time he ends up doing his 2-week stint with juvie, and he's kind of like in and out, I go a different route. I got an art teacher. The art teacher at that time, I think his name was Mr. Harris. I started getting heavily into that. Mm-hmm. I was baking a little bit. Yeah. And then there was this contest that I think it really helped me transition because it really gave me confidence. It was a contest to make a bookmark for this program called Riff.
Okay. I remember Riff.
Yeah. Reading is fundamental. Yeah. And I won first place. I got access to I think they gave you 50 books free. Okay. And then they gave me a gift certificate for $100 to the Wiz. Remember when the Wiz was the Wiz was like a radio shop kind of a thing. So so in winning first place in that contest, I got confidence I should be doing this. I should kind of be. Now, I didn't know exactly what that would land and be, and nor did I have the vocabulary to really express it at that junction in time.
But you belonged in a different place.
But I belonged in a different place, and I knew that. And, when I would hear about other people's situations versus mine, mm-hmm. I kind of knew that I shouldn't be doing those things.
Gotcha.
And so I did stop. I would still hang with him. I would still break bread, do certain things with him.
But you had a clear line.
Yeah, I had a clear line. And he understood that. And he championed me in that.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably because he knew that even though he was probably teaching you that stuff that you didn't necessarily belong there.
Right. And I remember using some of those techniques he taught me, mm-hmm. but for good.
Okay.
So I had a family member that locked themselves out of their car. I knew how to, all right, there you go.
And get in their car.
Right.
Yeah.
In college, I had a girl, she had an apartment off campus. She locked herself out of her apartment.
Yeah.
And no one was going to be there for the next 2 weeks. Library card.
Right there, and got her in.
All right, you win.
Yeah. So you go from stealing cars at 12, that whole 7th grade, right, to now knowing, hey, this art thing is doing something for me that I feel like, hey, I belong here, so I no longer have the desire, and even though I'm hanging with that same friend who taught you all this stuff, that's not me. So, and like you said, he's championing you in what you are doing positive. So it's not even the, hey, man, why you not doing this no more? It's like acceptance of like, hey, that's not you. I know who you are. I accept you. So fast forward to where you encounter, or even, I guess, in your head say, hey, I want to steal a car again in life. Like, what was going on at that place? And what age was that exactly?
So if you fast forward past, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, I'm about to graduate from high school, right?
Wow. Okay.
Right? So I still like, I'm cool with all of these different folks, right?
Okay.
Including him. But, sometimes I think as a young person, you just get ideas in your head that just aren't really great ones, right? Like, it may seem like a great idea at the moment, but it's not really, right? So we all get these ideas of like paying homage, or there's this thing I want to do before I leave.
Yeah, I got you. Like,
right?
One last time, I'm going to do this before, and I'm gonna go out with a bang. So
yeah. Like, I want to do this one last time because I feel like my time in this community after I leave it's going to be different, or I'm probably not going to be here. What it's going to look like, I had no idea, but So, so I remember it, like it was yesterday. I go and see that same guy, I meet him at gym.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, bro, I got this idea. Yo, I want to do just like one last stolen car ride. We just do donuts somewhere. And it ain't got to be no high traffic area, just whatever. And so he looks at me.
Yeah.
And he's just like, bro, take your to school.
Oh, okay. So he doesn't, he's like, no.
He's like, nah. He's like, man,
go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. If you don't go have a seat.
Yeah, like you're not built for this. Like, this ain't really, and you're about to go to school. Like, why even chance
doing that? Yeah.
So, you know how gym was structured. So sometimes you had 9th and 10th graders all in the same at the same time. And if you're sitting on the bleachers, like,
I was gonna say, if you sitting on the bleachers,
sitting on the bleachers, like, I'm chatting with him, and you got your young goons that's coming up,
that's listening,
graduating in their goondom, and they're like kind of listening, or maybe they're gonna talk to him afterwards because they're really in it. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So they overheard what I said to him, right? One of them was in 9th grade. The other one was in 10th grade. So they're younger. And you're a senior. And I'm a senior. Right?
Yeah.
So like, as I continue telling this, like, hold up. Keep that in mind. Like, I'm an elder, right?
Yeah.
So there's part of that there, right?
Got you.
All right. So,
So you didn't know them at all?
I've seen them.
Seen them but you don't fraternize. So you know how it is in high school too. The seniors don't really, unless you're like family or whatever.
Right.
You don't really talk to the underclassmen, so to speak.
So to speak. Yeah. So I've seen them. Gotcha. I've seen them around. I don't even know that, like, to this day, I don't even know their real names. I know their, that like community name, like, you know what I mean? I don't even know their real names. So they go, hey, man, I heard what you were saying to homie, like, yo, they're like, yo, meet us on Friday at such and such. We supposed to do a job anyway. We'll put you on the whip. We'll spin you, blah, blah, blah. And then, whatever. So, I think it's just like, when you're a younger person, even though I wasn't a street dude, I was cool, though. You know what I mean? Like, I was one of the cool dudes. You cool. So, as a result, it's kind of like them showing love or respect to the elder statesmen.
Like, we got a job. You just come through.
Yeah, just come through. We'll spin you. We'll blah,
spin
blah, blah.
Around.
And that just means, like, do a couple donuts.
Yeah, I was going to say donuts. You're going to get in the car.
Yeah,
whatever.
And then that'll be that, right? So I'm supposed to come meet them, right? And just to break it down, normally I had chores to do at home, right? Mm-hmm. I got a mama. She's serious.
Yeah.
That's just
I was about to say she's my type of mama. Yeah, I got you.
I got the serious mama. Mm-hmm. So normally I would have done my chores. I do them on Thursday. So Friday, it's on and popping day. I could just do whatever on a Friday. But I forgot, for whatever reason, I didn't do my chores on Thursday.
Okay.
And mama.
She like, where you going?
What's good with them chores?
Get them chores together. I got you.
So I had to do the chores before I head out to meet them. Mm-hmm. So I was supposed to meet them on the corner of Stuyvesant and Clinton Avenue. Literally right up the block.
I was about to say, yeah.
Literally right up the block. Due to my chores not being done, I got there a little late. You get what I'm saying?
How late do you think you got there?
Probably not even by a lot, like 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
So I go and meet them from this, by the spot. I go in the corner store, because, remember that corner store was right there. I went in there, just kind of look around. I wait for a few minutes. I'm like, I must have missed them. Mm-hmm. So I'm walking back down. Now, granted, I remember exactly what whip they were supposed to get. And I'll tell you another story later on about that. So it's supposed to be MPVs were like,
the thing.
It's like a minivan, but it was like a dope minivan.
I know, and people used to steal them all the time.
People loved them.
Yeah.
So they were supposed to steal a silver MPV. Mm-hmm. All right, so I don't see them at the corner. I walk past IHS. I walk past like the parking lot. Mm-hmm. And then I think there was a Rite Aid here across the street.
Yeah.
And my friend, one of my best friends from high school, he lived on that block, just on the other end, closer to Orange Park.
Okay.
So literally on that corner, yellow tape is up, ambulance is there. What do I see? Silver MPV, upside down. I see one kid, he's kind of like on a stretcher. It's one of the kids. I see him, he's on the stretcher. The other kid in a body bag. He's in the bag, he's zipped up. And at that time, I mean, I don't know what medical people were thinking, but body bags were white at that time.
Yeah.
So you could see it seeping through. So I'm like, I'm there, and I'm just looking. And I'm like, that's them. That's them. So I probably stood there longer than I should have.
Yeah.
And then later on that day, I just, I go to my boy's house who's down the block. I just stay there for a little bit.
Yeah. Do you tell him?
Nope. I don't say anything because the only people that know are me and the two kids. Like, my man don't even know.
So your man that told you no don't know.
My man said no.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, fast forward, a couple weeks later, he brings it up to me. He's like, see, this why you supposed to be going to school. You seen my two homies that was behind me when you was talking to me?
And never knowing that you were supposed to be there.
Nope.
So what do you do with that? Like,
I mean, I sit on it. Like, I'm just like, there are days that I think about it. There's days that I'm like, oh, I just go and there's days that I like near the ending of our school year, senior year, I was skipping a lot of schools, just like,
yeah,
like, dancing with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think there were parts of the school year when I did some reckless things that I feel like I probably wouldn't have done had that not occurred. Like, I got into a fight with one of my other friends over a girl.
Yeah.
There were just certain things that and to the eye of other folks, it probably didn't look like anything. And I'm not saying anything.
Yeah, you're not.
So who knows anything?
Yeah. So did you not feel like there was anybody that you could talk to at that point? Because I know trauma's funny like that. Like, again, especially when you've experienced it and other people haven't witnessed or are aware that you experienced it. Like, did you ever think of talking to somebody about it, or did you always just feel, was it like a guilt that you held that you were just like...
I felt like it was a guilt that I was supposed to hold, but also, too, just like the social construct of, like, poor communities is, like, not to talk about those things. Like, you couple it, so you got to couple that with two things, right?
Okay.
So you got, like, you have, like, these street codes, right? Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, I was only a part-time thug, right? Right?
I got you, though.
But there's, like, street codes, right? And then there's, like, the social construct of, like, yeah, we don't talk about that stuff. We man up and we just...
keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
So those are the social constructs of growing up in
that environment.
In that kind of environment, it kind of teaches you to stay away from speaking about things.
Yeah.
Like, and then there's so many things that I did speak about on a regular basis, mm-hmm. right? And then I watched other men and they will hold back on everything, right? So I'm pretty expressive in general about most things.
Gotcha.
But there are some things that I do bury. And just because of the nature of that, the guilt, the shame, there's so many things you feel, but you don't know how to feel.
I was about to say
because
that.
You're taught to...
not. You're
taught to, like, man up, follow these codes. Man up. Just like, man up.
Yeah.
Just
Suck
be okay with whatever comes your way. And, I had seen a bunch of things happen outside of that. Like, I've seen people get shot close range.
Yeah.
That hit me different because, one, the people that I seen get shot, they survived. So that's one. Mm-hmm. Two, most of the death that I had ever witnessed was always someone older. So I associated death with, oh, yeah, you lived your life and now it's your time.
Yeah.
But to see two kids, well, one didn't die. He had, I think he has like a permanent, like, injured
like
leg.
Disability,
okay. Yeah. But the other kid, he did die.
Yeah.
So you being someone older, there's the guilt of like, damn, I should have guided them. Like, what was I thinking about, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think for a moment in time, in my mind, it was my idea to do it. So
it felt like it was your idea, but you felt like when they said, hey, come with us, like you had given them that idea more so than they were planning to do it on their own.
Because, I came to my man with that idea to do that. They were going to do that regardless.
Gotcha.
But in my mind, it was my idea and it's happened.
Yeah. So how long before you talk about this at all? Like, that's at, what are you, 17 when you graduated?
Probably, 17.
You were 17?
Yeah.
At what age did you have a conversation? Because again, I like I told the listeners, I never asked you why you didn't drive. Like, I never pushed you on it. You'd be like, I'd be like, okay, AB, he on the train. I already know. Like, whatever, I'm gonna scoop you up. Like, it just wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't something that got pushed. I know from my perspective, I'm not sure throughout your life if other people pushed you to even have that conversation. So, at what point does that come back up? Because I know you're dealing with it, whether it's buried or not. I'm sure there's probably glimpses of certain things that happen along with you.
Yeah.
Was it let me ask you this. Was it a conscious decision like, okay, because this happened, I'm not going to drive? Or was it the fear of like...
I mean, yes and no, right? So there were moments that I would still drive. I would still like, I even took the driver's test, and I remember we were at Berkeley. Mm-hmm. It was probably the first year we took the driver's test. Mm-hmm. And I had took a few lessons, and the lady was like, "Oh, you're really great at this, right?" But I get to the test, and I fail. And so with these things still flashing back in the back of your mind, it's not that I think I felt like, oh, I don't deserve to drive. So.
Wow. That's deep. That hit me different because I'm like, is it I don't want to hurt anybody else, but like not deserving to drive because of what had happened and what had, what those, God rest his soul to the one that passed away and the other one who's disabled. Yeah. So when do you have a conversation? Like, what brings this up to surface where you feel like, hey, this is something that happened when I was 17, but I'm seeing either fruit in my life from it, or it's something that is still a nightmare to me, or still something that I can play back? Because I feel like trauma, it's like I can play back all of the trauma like it was yesterday. It's so clear and concise, like, you know what I mean? And depending on what triggers that, like what triggered it to be like, hey, this is an issue like I've never talked about that I've buried so long. Where are you at that point that you even have a conversation about it and address it?
So I think for a long time I did not have conversations about it. Mm-hmm. Like, people would sometimes ask me about it, and I'd just be like, it's one of those things when, like, seriously, if you don't want to talk about something, you'll find a way not to. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whether it's something as simple as, like, changing a subject when someone brings it up, or just going dead silent.
Yeah. Because
I've done both when people have asked me questions surrounding that, right? So that was that. And so I remember this is around 2004 or maybe 2005, because I graduated from Rutgers in 2004. And then one of my good friends who, we lived with each other, we were roommates for a while, he had graduated in 2005.
Okay.
And so I was living in New Brunswick at the time. And we were about to become roommates, and he just got a job. He just got this new car. The car was fire.
Yeah.
Fire. And so in that moment, I'm trying to get my courage up around just like letting go of this.
Yeah.
So I would be like, so I said to him, yo, let me pour your drink back in the driveway. I'm just trying to get over myself a little bit surrounding this. So he's like, all right, cool. I'm going to run to the store. Gives me the keys. I put the key in ignition, start. I just stop. I think I even like hit my head on like the horn a couple times, like this. And then he comes back from the store. He sees me just still there. He's like, dude, what?
Like, what's wrong?
Yeah. And so I'm like, yo, you just pull it back. And I just get out the car. So, and this was 2005 though.
Dang.
And so here's what I'll say too is like, from me not, trying to communicate that to anyone, not sharing. Because I know my friend, he was open to hearing, like,
what's wrong at this point. And probably knew, like, again, I'm sure coming back and seeing you like that, he like, yo, what happened? Like, what's up? What's good? Yeah. And it's a fire car. Like, I just got a brand new car, pull it in. Like,
I think it was a slingshot. That joint was fire. It was a fire whip, especially at that time.
Yeah.
But just got out the car, went in the crib. I was like, yo, I'm gonna holler at you later. Just kind of like,
yeah.
And so I remember, if you fast forward, like at this point, I got pretty decent jobs as far as like career wise. I'm working for, banks. I'm working for NBA teams. So my career is kind of like, it's in order. Things are going the way that they're going. And then I think, what propelled me to really start wanting to manage it and get back to it was like, I thought about, when I'm in a serious relationship and then I have kids, and then what is that going to look like if it's, it's time to pick them up or whatever it may be. And so, and I'm still working on it now, but what did that look like? And so that's kind of what, because of the relationship that I was in and the woman that I was with, who is now my wife, that propelled me to kind of like think about how to start handling it so that I could just be a better contribution in our relationship, and then just like, those kind of things. So that's part of what pulled it out of me.
Okay. So was she the first one that you had the conversation with of like why you didn't drive?
Nope. Nope. So, all right. So I have this thing where if I'm talking to a crowd of folks, so much easier because I don't have to focus on anyone. I could kind of walk back and forth. I don't have to give a focal point. Like, talking to you right now is actually more, I'd be more nervous talking to one or two people in a room versus it could be 1,000 people in a room.
Okay.
That's easier for me because I don't have to really, it's like I don't have to really give you me, like.
I know what you mean.
When it's one-on-one, you got to give yourself.
I was about to say, it's more of a, and I always call it naked feeling when somebody is connected directly to you and you're directly exchanging with them. It's more of a, a transparency and people, you feel like people see you more, even though obviously it's more people in the room, so more people are seeing you, but it's a different connection and a different vulnerability to have when you're one-on-one with somebody.
Right.
I got you.
So with that being said, sharing with you my comfort zone of speaking. The first time I shared it with, there was probably 30 people in the room. I was doing this program called Landmark.
Okay.
And so Landmark is kind of, for lacking of a better phrasing, it's like a self-improvement, being self-aware and just like taking a look at you and how you can express yourself better, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So the first time I shared it, oh my God, I didn't even get through it without 10,000
tears.
Yeah. And then, ugly Denzel Washington acting cry. Like, just like.
But that's something that you've been holding since 17.
Yeah.
And at this point, at that time that you're talking in front of that group of 30, how old are you?
Oh my gosh. I'm like late 30s, you know what I mean?
Wow.
So you know what I mean? Like, I held on to that for that long. Mm-hmm. And when you hold on to something that long, it is hard to come out of it. You get what I'm saying? So I do think it was difficult. And then most of the people that were really, really, you know, in my life, mm-hmm. you know, I called them and I started telling them one by one.
Okay. And did you feel free after that? Like,
yeah, definitely. I think even after the first time, there's like a level of freedom that you have. Yeah. Right?
And weight that's off.
And weight that's off because it's something that you've been burying for so long. Right?
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah. So since you've been able to, and thank you for sharing all of that, because I know it's not easy to talk about your traumas, no matter how long it's been or how many times you tell the story. I feel like, you know, it impacts us. So thank you for sharing with everybody. Yeah. I think from that day forth, I really want to know, so what has changed? Like, do you think after sharing, of course, the freedom happens, now you feel free, you're able to even, thank God, you're able to come and share with the listeners that I have. But, like, I guess from your perspective, have you started therapy or counseling or what? Because I know you have 2 small children, like you said, right? Yeah. You have a beautiful wife that now you want to be able to contribute to picking up the kids. And I know you guys are in the city, so trains might be a factor too. But, like, what does that look like? And now are you on the road of like, hey, I'm going to get do you have your license?
No.
Nope. Do you?
I do aspire to get it and I will have it.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. You will. I believe that. And I think, you know, my own prayer for you as you were talking is that, you know, I think we're always triggered in trauma. And people who have experienced trauma, I think we always have triggers that bring up what we have experienced, but being able to manage them, like you said earlier, and like being able to take a step back and be like, okay, maybe not today, but I'm gonna try tomorrow. And like to give yourself grace in that area, because it's not it took you from 17 to late 30s to even be able to share that, to be able to heal that is even, you know, I don't want to say it's even longer, but it's a process. And give yourself grace in that, because you're needed on the road. We trust you, and you know, I you know, as much as and I don't want to downplay the trauma, but I feel like all I kept on hearing is God's intervention, like God's intervention of, you know, before when your friend even got locked up, God's intervention of like, your mama may be hard on chores, but that's like literally God's protection for you. And your boy saying no might have not been enough, but your mother's saying you gonna do them daggone chores before you go there. It really is God's protection. Yeah. There's been so many things in my life that I can think back to that I would have been at. I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? Or in places and spaces that I know I would have been there, and then later on you hear something tragic happens, and it's just like, all right, God, people, I don't care what you believe in, I don't care what you call them or whatever. And it's even when, you know, there's been moments I've been sitting, you know, at a stop sign or sitting at a light, and for some reason I'm just like, I ain't going, and before you know it, a car fly through, you know what I mean? Like those particular things are not by coincidence, or, you know what I mean? So I think too, it's always the story that we tell ourselves too. Yeah. And you said that, like, and again, God rest, you know, that young man's soul. And, you know, I'm praying for the guy who is disabled for life. But at the same point, it's like, that wasn't your fault.
Yeah.
And you have to know that, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what you have to tell yourself, you know, speak nice to ourselves as well.
Yeah. And I think that's part of what I gained in some of that healing, is like, you know, I did blame myself for it for a long time. Mm-hmm.
I understand.
And so as a result, you kind of get it.
Yeah, I get it. I get it in a different facet. And I also think you said something, being older. And I've shared on this show a ton of times, losing my sister. But I always felt responsible in the responsibility area because I was older, and there was a part of me that felt like you should know better, you should have checked on her earlier, you should, you know what I mean? And I would that's what I would speak to myself for years and years and years and years. So there was a guilt that I held from her not being here, like on myself. And, again, it showed up in different ways than yours. It made me want to help everybody regardless of what it was doing to me. So it made me the hero because now I want to show up. I want to be on time. I want to be on, you know what I mean? There's fruit in my life that shows the 12-year-old that could not save her sister. So I do 100% understand. I want, before we log off for this episode, I would love to know, because I do think there's a difference, and I think everybody that suffers trauma, but I do think in the male perspective, there's just a heavier weight that men have because people are just like, chuck it up, suck it up, or whatever. And there are so many men that are walking around so heavy with childhood things, with, things that have happened, that do not know how to express themselves, do not know how to communicate, are literally suffering in silence. And I would love to know any wisdom that you can impart for men who have experienced, whether it's growing up in, urban areas and seeing stuff that we thought was normal but wasn't normal, and feeling like, oh, I'm keeping the man code, or I'm sucking it up. Like, what would you say to the, your brother who is next to you, who's struggling with something that nobody else knows about, and feeling like, I'm just going to, I'm going to be a man, but it's still there and it's still bothering and affecting their lives?
So I think, the blessing now is that I feel like there's definitely been a tremendous shift in our community as far as, being self-aware, mental health, and things of that nature. So, I have friends that go to therapy. Yeah. I have friends that openly speak with multiple people, with things that are going on in their life to try to come with some sort of resolve. Yeah. So I think, in this stage of the game and where we are as far as the way that our communities are working, it's been a shift. So I would say, talk to people. Yeah. If you feel like you need to get therapy, do that. I mean, there's so many different forms of therapy based on what I've done research on. There's group therapy, there's, individual therapy. And then, you could actually get even more specific with therapy. Like, there's different types of and it's out there. Yeah. And even if you don't want to do therapy, you can just start talking about it. Yeah. My therapy started the moment that I spoke to that group of 30.
Yeah, I get it. The exchange is my therapy. And I am in therapy, but I agree with you. But I think this place and space is always so therapeutic for me because it gives people, and I pray that those who are listening, it gives you mirrors and windows. It gives you people who know where you are, but also you are a window to somebody to say, hey, you held that from the time you were 17, but then you sit here today and are able to even speak about it. You know what I mean? To whomever will listen to this. So I love this space, and this, again, is my therapy. So I thank you for coming and sharing with us. You had me in tears. I don't know if y'all can see it, but I was crying a little bit, y'all.
I shed one off to the side.
Yeah, you got to do. I always cry from this side, so usually y'all can't get it. But I'm so glad that you came to spend some time with us and share. It was heavy, but like if that makes sense. And can you tell the people, where they can find you? You got on this dope apparel, y'all. He got a dope apparel line. Every once in a while, he send me a little treat. But he got a dope apparel line that you guys need to check out. And I'm going to need one of those, but I think I might need big instead of Pac. I ain't sure yet.
Okay. So the name, clearly my name's Aaron Brown. The name of my clothing brand is Royal Threads NYC. So, and that's Royale spelled with the E instead of just the L. So it's Royal Threads NYC. And you can find me at a .com or on social with that handle.
Got you. And what's this new collection called?
So this new collection is called Black to the Future. And the idea and concept behind it is that if I could go back in time, I would save Biggie and I would save Pac. And I would see how the hip hop community would kind of thrive. And then I'm going to do an extension where I do MLK and Malcolm X. Because if I could go back and save them, I would do the same, and I would see what the state of our community would be.
Wow. I would love to know that, too. Black to the future, y'all. Yeah. Well, we will see you next week. We out of here.
All right.